The Gauteng Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Community Safety has expressed deep concern over the suspension of more than 300 Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department officers. Now, this is following their alleged involvement in an illegal wage protest that happened in March. The strike, which caused major traffic disruptions across Ekurhuleni and also restricted access to OR Tambo International Airport, has now raised urgent questions about law enforcement capacity in one of South Africa's most crime-ridden affected provinces. Let's speak to Community Safety Portfolio Committee Chairperson Gauteng, Dr. Bandile Masuku, and you can call in as well on 0861987000. Dr. Masuku, thank you very much for joining us on Power Lunch this afternoon. So over 300 EMPD officers have been suspended. How serious is this risk to the safety of the public across Ekurhuleni?
No, good day and good day to your listeners. No, I think the issue, Pabi, is that there is a pending suspension. It's not really a suspension as of yet, but it's a pending suspension pending on their responses as individuals. But I think as a question that we have raised, it's an important concern that we are raising, because we are working within the context, rightfully as you put it, of high crime in Gauteng. And also now we're looking at the situation where there is shortage of law enforcement officers across the board. So now with 300 minors, then it gives a big strain, and it puts a stress on the whole system of fighting crime and preventing crime.
Explain to me what the pending suspension is. And you said pending on the individual's responses. Talk us through this process.
I think the indication that the city has made is that they've written to all the officers requesting them to respond in 48 hours on why they shouldn't be disciplined or be suspended in that regard in their participation in the illegal strike that they embarked on. So pending that, we are hoping that the issues of DC and all the others will be rapidly resolved, because there is going to be a big gap that is left with these officers being suspended.
Okay, so in the city of Ekurhuleni, do you believe the city acted appropriately in suspending so many officers at once? Is there an alternative disciplinary path that could have been made available to them?
I think it's within their rights and mandates as a city, to discipline their employees. But I think what the issue that is raising, one of the major issues that this process is raising, is how the law enforcement officers should be, the issues of their salaries, their well-being and everything, and negotiate in what you call collective bargaining should be handled differently than what we are seeing under normal circumstances for any other employee. So it's a question that maybe as a legislature and as a country, we need to engage on how essential service employees are actually disciplined and actually do collective bargaining.
So this happens often, right? A person or a set of employees will have a concern, a gripe. They've escalated it. It's not responded to positively. Negotiations happen and nothing comes of it. And then eventually you go on strike. So their issue was around wages. This was a wage protest that happened in March, right? And yes, there is an illegality to the actual way in which they went about staging the protest. But is there an ongoing conversation still about their wages? Because that was the issue in the first place.
I'm hoping that it is, because they can't be moving in that direction if there was any discussion that was happening or any negotiations happening. And the issue of them, going on an illegal strike, we'll know that the Labour Act does give effect on how the strikes should be, handled, in particular for them as essential services and as people that have to enforce the laws. It should be done in a different way. And that's why I'm saying that maybe there should be a broader conversation for soldiers, for police, for doctors, for nurses on how these matters should be handled. Because if they are not at work, there is a greater risk of loss of life and any other disasters that may happen.
0861-987-000. We're speaking to the Gauteng Community Safety Portfolio Committee Chairperson, Dr. Bandile Masuku. And this is about how the Gauteng Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Community Safety has expressed deep concern over the suspension of more than 300 Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department officers following their alleged involvement in an illegal wage protest, and that is what happened in March. Your thoughts and comments are welcome on 0861-987-000. You can also send us a voice note if you'd like to remain anonymous, and if you are indeed, one of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police officers that was affected, then you can send an anonymous WhatsApp, and we'd love to hear your question or any questions you'd like to pose around this to Gauteng Community Safety Portfolio Committee Chairperson Dr. Bandile Masuku, who is our guest. All right, so back to now the suspension or the proposed suspension, right? Talk to us about this 48-day window to submit responses that the Ekurhuleni Metro Police have now. What's the process?
It is a usual process that normally is engaged on. Before an employee gets suspended or being disciplined, the employer gives them the right to reply and also explain if they are on why they shouldn't be disciplined. And I think that's what we are in the process of. But we're hoping that we are not going to get to a point where suspensions will be effected. But also maybe to emphasize, Pabi, that we are not saying that the police officers were correct, the law enforcement officers were correct, but we are simply saying that the concern would be if we are less 300, then we are more vulnerable than ever before.
All right. I mean, there's a deep morale issue around the pay equity and morale around that. Do you think Metro police officers are being fairly compensated for their work?
It's a matter that we've been raising with the police service in general, that the matters relating to the well-being of our officers is urgent and it needs special attention. I know that the SAPS had engaged in a summit or a collective engagement with everyone in the stakeholders, talking about the well-being of police. And one of the issues was the issues of salaries, but above all was the issues of benefits, mental health, which is a bigger aspect on this conversation.
Absolutely. And so that is part of what the city is doing, collaborating with SAPS to ensure continued policing services, but also to ensure that the platforms are, as you say, more cared for, and the individuals are much more cared for, because this is, of course, a really high stakes job. So if the standoff continues, Dr. Masuku, how does the Portfolio Committee plan to intervene to protect workers' rights and, of course, the safety of the residents?
Within our ambit and within our mandate, of oversight, the issue is putting pressure, on both sides of the negotiating table to try and get to a speedy resolution on the matter. And we are going to continue engaging with them, encouraging them, because the gap, as representing the citizens, will be much actually felt. We do see that there are contingencies that have been put in place since the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding and Cooperation between the metros and the province and the police. It makes it easier maybe for the other metro police departments to assist, in law enforcement, but that won't be enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so much more needs to happen, a rehaul of sorts. And we talk about this often on the South African Police Service side, but I think the EMPD side also needs to have a very big spotlight shone on it because of the very important work done by it. One last question from Temba on X. The political interference in the disciplining of the Ekurhuleni Metro cops disempowers the commanders. How are the commanders expected to instill discipline in their ranks if politicians are now questioning them? Dr. Masuku?
Like I've indicated, Pabi, and I'll emphasize the point, we are not interfering. We are just indicating our concern and also encouraging both sides to speedily resolve the matter. We are not in any case wanting to interfere with the process of an employer and employee relationship. But of importance, we also have to raise concerns. I think as all citizens, we should be worried if the law enforcement officers less than 300 would have impact, and what the impact would be, if we are less 300 on law enforcement on the streets today.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and we will keep watching this very, very closely as we do have an understanding of the importance of the work that the EMPD is supposed to do out there, like the JMPD, Tshwane Metro Police as well. But I just can't seem to get that image out of my head of a Metro cop jumping out from behind the bush to give you a ticket because your disc is out of, if it's expired, ne? And then 2 robots down, the robot doesn't work, and there's no one there to steer traffic. How do we change the channel to this movie? Like, South Africa is a movie, we got it. We've come to the point where we're done. How do we change, like, ika remote?